After 9/11, business boomed.
Blackwater is a sleek, glossy, fast-moving sports car in the world of private security companies.
Blackwater is one of the largest and most conspicuous security firms in Iraq, staffed largely by retired U.S. military, including former members of the Special Forces.
They started off as a training facility.
They offered range space, they trained sportsmen, they sold target systems.
5 years ago, they were just about to go under, and then this Iraq war started.
Business boomed. Blackwater is the brainchild of camera-shy, multi-millionaire Eric Prince.
Eric Prince is the son of a wealthy industrialist who made his fortune with the lighted visor for cars.
Prince himself is a former Navy SEAL.
On a carrier, he saw how peacekeeping operations were conducted. He thought he had a better idea. He could privatize some of those things. He called the company Blackwater because of the waters that ran through the creek stained with tannins. And there's also bears on the property, so he used the bear paw and the sniper scope.
Eric Prince, the owner of the company's family, has long been well connected.
They have access to a lot of Republicans that are in the Senate and House, and probably to the president.
You know, the family's kind of well known for backing kind of conservative causes.
A big Republican contributor whose company has won more than $80 million worth of contracts from the U.S. government.
We have gone beyond the legitimate use of these people to use them as stopgap measures where you get into real legal and ethical and moral questions.
Hey, all these fuckers right here.
A convoy of Blackwater vehicles passed the vehicle, and the first one kicked it off the road, and the last one, as it passed it by, shot the man in the vehicle and put 100 rounds roughly in the vehicle. Turned out the man just finished dropping off his two sons at one of our bases, Taji, because they were part of the Iraqi National Guard. So there's a certain amount of irony in that, because obviously the man was not a threat.
The contractors were not under the control of the military. They were given far greater latitude, and they were allowed to do whatever they want. Certainly that did not do much for the American image. That did not win the hearts and minds of the Islamic community.
Fucking niggers.
The company says it can assemble hundreds of battle-ready men, a small private army at a moment's notice.
To have a private army, that's a frightening concept, and one that really, I hope, doesn't take hold in this country.
All we train in a group of people back here that is a black army.
Such a possibility of being so out of control with no checks and balances, there's just no limit to what could happen with that kind of organization and with the kind of training that they have.
He's taking cover, you got more coming. Jesus Christ, if I can fucking tell you.
Dozens of families fought hard to keep Blackwater USA from building a new firing range less than 2,000 feet from their backyard.
Blackwater USA, based in Millioc, North Carolina, wants to expand.
They've just built a brand new headquarters.
8,000 square feet in the original building, 64,000 square feet here.
Blackwater has recruited key individuals from the government, and now Blackwater is getting key governmental contracts. You do the math.
Certainly we've left room for growth.
Growth, because Taylor believes Blackwater has a bright future.
There's opportunities all over the world.
There shouldn't be any private armies. That's just asking for trouble.
When we express our concern to the commissioners, then they turn around and call us unpatriotic. And we're patriotic to the core. They're not going anywhere. They've gotten too big and they basically do as they please.
Wartime demands allow them to expand. Wartime demands allow them to expand. Wartime demands allow them to expand.
One of the most frightening developments in the occupation of Iraq and the so-called war on terror is actually something that most people have never heard of. In addition to the 150,000 troops that the U.S. has on the ground in Iraq, the Bush administration has deployed a shadow army of some 100,000 contractors. Of these, tens of thousands are heavily armed mercenaries that roam Iraq with impunity. Among the most powerful of the companies operating in Iraq is Blackwater USA, a secretive company based in the wilderness of North Carolina. It's headed by a right-wing, Christian conservative bankroller of President Bush and his allies. And Blackwater envisions itself as the FedEx of the national security apparatus. But the reality is that Blackwater has become a prime player in the war on terror, and nothing short of the Bush administration's Praetorian Guard.
Cover, you got more coming. Jesus Christ, it's like a fucking turkey shoot.
I would like to raise my children to grow to be soldiers, but then a general would decide when they like it.
Blackwater USA largely operated in the shadows of the U.S. war machine until the morning of March 31st, 2004, when 4 Blackwater contractors were ambushed and killed in the Sunni city of Fallujah, Iraq. Their bodies were burned and dragged through the streets, 2 of them hung from a bridge over the Euphrates River. For most people, it was the first that they've ever heard of private military contractors operating in Iraq. That was the Mogadishu moment of the Iraq War. In many ways, it was the day the war turned. Unlike Somalia, when the Clinton administration pulled out, the Bush administration initiated a massive revenge attack. They laid siege to the city of Fallujah, killed hundreds of people, displaced tens of thousands of others, and in the process inflamed the Iraqi resistance that haunts U.S. occupation forces to this day.
The Cold War's over, but the world is still getting colder. Atlas walking through the projects with the hood on my shoulder.
The Bush administration came to power with a radical privatization agenda. We see it in our schools, prisons, healthcare system, and law enforcement in the United States. The occupation of Iraq and the war on terror had brought the greatest privatization of warfare in modern history. Blackwater USA has become one of the most powerful private actors in the so-called war on terror. It provides the Bush administration with an extraordinary amount of political cover. The deaths of Blackwater contractors and other war contractors are not included in the total death count, even though some 780 of them have been killed in Iraq. Their injuries don't get calculated either. Their crimes don't get punished. What you have is a revolving door. Blackwater and other companies benefit the Bush administration, and in turn the Bush administration and its Republican allies in Congress have shielded these military contractors from any effective oversight, any effective accountability, any effective legal system. Their operations are shrouded in secrecy, and people in Congress find it almost impossible to get information about Blackwater and other companies' operations.
And we know virtually nothing about this. We think about 40 cents of every dollar goes to private military contractors. We think about 800 of them have been killed in Iraq, but we don't know that. They're not even counted. And we think there's about 25,000 to maybe 40,000 engaged in military activities, in combat-related activities, but we don't know, and we can't find out.
Blackwater USA has 2,300 men actively deployed in 9 countries around the world. They have an additional 20,000 contractors at the ready. But while Blackwater has operated in Iraq and Afghanistan, the company increasingly has its sights set on deployments inside of the United States. Blackwater setting up a new facility in Illinois, another one in California. I was in New Orleans in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and I saw Blackwater mercenaries speeding up and down the streets in unmarked cars, heavily armed with M4 machine guns, flak jackets, other weapons strapped to their legs. And when I talked to the Blackwater guys on the ground and asked them what their mission was in New Orleans, they said they were there to confront criminals and stop looters. To have mercenary companies which have operated in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere in the war on terror, essentially declaring themselves above any effective laws, now deploying on the streets of U.S. cities, should be seen as an ominous threat.